Welcome to the No Stay Project here, live back from the fortified back in the fortified compound here in Mesa, Arizona. Glad to be back. I was in California for a month or so. Uh, Not my most favorite place in the world to be, especially being San Bernardino, that there Inland Empire. Wow. Uh, do they have to use an Italian word to describe it, like a ghetto? What's the deal with that? But I'm glad to be back here. It's episode 118 of the No Stay Project. And gonna have Eyal in just a moment, but I just want to. We've got a lot of damn noise on this line right now. But if you want to join the show later, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. Passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. I want to thank everyone for the continued support of the show. It's not the No Sleep Project anymore. I've actually gotten 3 days, 3 nights worth of sleep, so I am appreciative of that. But if you want to help support the show, it is appreciated. I will not be able to do a live show on Saturday because I'm going back to San Bernardino, but I will be live regularly after that on Wednesday and on Saturday. But for the next month or so, it coming from San Bernardino, but it should be live both days a week. And if you'd like to support the show, it's markstevens.net and markstevens.sales.com. And I will discuss later, which is unfortunate situation in California with the franchise tax board. I'll go over the details, but suffice to say here at the beginning, I will no longer be doing helping anybody with the franchise tax board in California. It has reached an impasse and no longer effective. They are so corrupt. They are so dishonest. So anyway, I thought we were muted up, but we've got Eyal on with us. Eyal from Israel. Welcome back, my friend. Good to have you back. I know it's late there, so I'm glad we got you on first. So were you able to? Yes, yeah, that's true. So I do appreciate you taking the time so late to be able to join me here on the big show. So you do have somebody that you want to discuss, and who's going to be discussing a cannabis activist, correct? All right, I gotta. Well, hold on just a second there, El. For some reason, there's no audio on your side, so just give me a second. All right, let's test that again. Nope, there's no audio. I am having another tech nightmare. I have no idea why the hell the audio is not coming out for the caller. Um I, I'm completely bewildered here. It all worked during my test, and I've had this happen before, but I'm checking. It is absolutely not. All right. Well,
hmm
do another test.
Okay, test. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I think we've got it now.
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
so Eyal from Israel, and I'll have to do my best to edit that out, and I'll have to pull this live broadcast down. I'm glad I was able to get that straightened out. It was an easy fix. Wow, what did? But hey, it's the No Stay Project. So I appreciate you taking the time because it's actually in the middle of the night there in Israel. But you want to discuss? You're calling. We're going to be discussing a cannabis activist, correct?
Yes. And it's a story that I wanted to bring to the show for quite some time. And I'm happy we got to it. So to start from the end, this guy is already 3 months, I think, in Ukraine in prison. So this is how the story ends until for now. But I want to give an introduction to the story, and I've summarized, everything that happened, so people can know what he did before he got to prison. Because it's amazing that anarchists and activists around the world are not familiar with this case.
Yeah, I don't know
By the
anything
way,
about it other than what you've told me on Skype.
okay. So basically, what Amos did, he did something quite similar, I think, to what Ross Ulbricht did with the Silk Road. Hopefully, the story will end differently. But unlike Ross Ulbricht, Amos didn't do it on darknet or on freenet. He did it openly on the open web, and he didn't hide. He wasn't anonymous. He was very open about what he's doing, and he focused on cannabis trade.
What's his name?
So Amos.
Amos. Okay. So he's doing this all out in the open. So walk us through.
So he's the guy behind what's called Telegraph, and Telegraph is a Telegram-based, organized or managed marketplace where dealers have to register and provide identification in order to sell, and so the buyers get protection from theft, from fraud, from sexual harassment, and even from the police. So people use, the Telegram, the instant messaging app. And on top of it, there's the Telegraph, and people can just, find the dealer and buy cannabis without having, to get connections and people who know people and take the risk of just having their money stolen or having, buy some low quality product. And so on, and there were many cases of fraud and even of sexual harassment where the Telegraph management were preventing, or when the case happened, they exposed the dealers and just kicked them out of the system. So the Telegraph brought a lot of value to the market of cannabis trade by protecting basically the buyers and also the sellers, the dealers. So let's go first to the beginning. Who is Amos and how did he get to do all this great stuff?
Okay.
So and I'm reading some points that I summarized his whole history, so we can really get to know who is Amos. Because Amos is a friend of mine. I mean, I never met him, but we talked many times, and I interviewed him on my podcast on the No State Project Israel. Before it was obviously before this whole thing happened. So Amos organized the first few big bong night events in Israel, where thousands of cannabis users came to smoke together in front of the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli parliament. So it's like a yearly event, and I don't know if it still happens, but it happened like 4 years in a row. Thousands of people drove to Jerusalem and just smoked bongs in front of the Knesset.
Wow.
And in one of those events, he was arrested for selling a joint to some guy. And basically the story I heard was that this guy asked him for a joint and he gave him the joint. He was like, no, let me pay you. And he was like, no, take it. It's on me. And the guy was like, no, I insist. And he gave him the money, and it was an undercover agent, and he was arrested and spent 7 months in prison for selling a joint.
7 months in prison for selling a joint, and someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who was credibly accused of molesting underage girls, got a slap on the wrist. Oh, that's right, because Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire and he has billionaire friends. Yeah, okay. It's always
and I was pissed off the politicians and the whole system by bringing people together and to smoke weed in front of the parliament.
Wow.
That was his real crime.
Well, crime in quotes. I mean, he wasn't hurting anybody.
Yeah, of course. I'm being cynical, of course.
Yeah. If somebody's making a point that it's sort of like with Marc Emery in Canada. He's been in prison, my gosh, for years.
Yeah, but 2 joints.
Oh, it was two. Well, then, yeah. Well, two joints. Yeah, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Two joints. Okay, so 7 months for selling one joint.
Mhm.
Wow.
So after after he got out of prison, he left Israel to the U.S. because he has an American citizenship, and after after the state spits in your face or steps on your face so badly, you want to leave. So he left for the U.S. and he had some plans in mind. So when he got to the US, he started letting cannabis buyers and sellers connect with each other through his Facebook profile. And I was on his friends list, and one day I see cannabis trade on his profile, and I was like, what's going on? Aren't they afraid to be caught? What's going on? It could be like an undercover or something. But the thing is, they knew that they could trust each other, the buyers and the sellers, because both of them were his friends. So if you were within his friends list, that means he approved you to his friends list. So you're not an undercover. So basically, he let his friends on Facebook just tag him, and so we started the online cannabis trade without actually having to do anything or being involved. So his friends list grew to the limit of 5,000 friends. You cannot have more than 5,000 friends on Facebook. And it said that every day there was a trade of 2 kilograms of cannabis by about 30 dealers. And because of that limit for Facebook, that you cannot have more than 5,000 friends on your list, Amos looked for a better solution, something that would get more people to be able to trade. So that's where he got some more people involved in coding, and they built a solution on top of Telegram, the instant messaging app. Now, within 2 years of operation, Telegraph grew to serve thousands of dealers, hundreds of thousands of customers in Israel. And Telegraph was operated by 70 managers, and many of them working full-time. Dealers were paying monthly fee for permission to advertise on certain channels. And there was no one in Israel that hasn't heard of Amos and Telegraph.
Well,
So
it says here on Wiki that it's a network in Israel alone has over 200,000 members.
I think the number is too small. I think there are more, because so many people in Israel smoke, and everybody who smokes was a customer there. Now, buying cannabis wasn't an issue anymore since the Telegraph. You didn't have to have friends of friends and connections and numbers of some guy, or fear that you might get tripped. Prices went dramatically down and the quality went dramatically up. And Amos, and the whole time, Amos was never afraid to be open about what he's doing, where he's doing it, where he's at, and he kept updating everybody through Facebook what he thinks about the state and the police. Now, another thing to note is that Amos is a vegan, and everything he did was driven by ideology of freedom and self-responsibility. It was never about money, although a lot of money was rolling in the trade. He lived, a life like just simple guy. He didn't take too much money for himself, more than he needed just to live, probably. And he used the platform and the fame that he got to promote veganism. And the Telegraph, the organization, was donating money and cannabis to many patients in need, and even to animal shelters. They donated money to start the animal shelters. So, beginning of March this year, Amos was set up by an undercover agent who gained his trust and worked within Telegraph, the organization. Now, Amos was told by that agent that the agent is getting married and he wants to have him in his wedding as the groomsman. And Amos agreed to leave the US and fly to Ukraine, where he was told the wedding is going to take place. So after 2 days in Ukraine, Amos was arrested in the middle of the night in his hotel room by Israeli and Ukraine cops. Same night, 42 Telegraph managers in Israel were also arrested.
Wow.
And since then, and this was like the main the main headline in the news the next day, like on TV, on the newspapers, everywhere, first page for a whole week. So since then, it's like 3 months from now, he's being held in a prison in Ukraine, and he's refusing extradition to Israel because he knows he'll get a long prison sentence if he agrees to being extradited to Israel. So the Israel police, they used Ukraine as the location to catch him, to lure him there and to catch him there, because they knew the Ukraine government or the Ukraine state is very corrupt, and they would bend over to Israel's request to possibly violate international law. Now, look, I'll get into why I say possibly violate international law. We know they violate morality and ethics. That's clear for us as anarchists. But they're violating also international law, and I think it's precedent. It's a very scary precedent what you're doing. Look, since Telegraph was started, Amos did not set foot in Israel once. But yet the Israeli police claims he violated the Israeli law by operating a website through which Israeli citizens have broken the Israeli law. So just to demonstrate how absurd this claim is, think about China and their ban of free speech. In China, you cannot and you're not allowed to access Google. If you do that, you break the Chinese law. So if an Israeli citizen in Israel, while being in Israel, opens a website that offers access to Google search, and Chinese people use this website, China should have a right to demand Israel to extradite that Israeli guy, the website owner, to China. Or just as absurd as arresting a tourist in China because he used Google when he was at home before the trip to China. That is how absurd and scary the idea is, that they can arrest somebody for a website that breaks the Israeli law, and he wasn't in Israel the whole time.
I had kind of, I think in the same line of how stupid it is, I had a lawyer, and I have a picture of him. It was a number of years ago, and he accused me of violating Ohio law. I said, "You do understand, sir, that I'm in Arizona. You're still violating. All right, send your proof." I never heard from him again because there was none. I mean, it reminds me though of the protest that I spoke about on the last show regarding all the protests in Hong Kong, because it dealt with Chinese extradition. I think here, I just wanted to point out before we continue, we have a different number here as far as how many people are reported as arrested. And so the timesofisrael.com is saying that in conjunction with Amos Silver, 42 other people were arrested in Israel. Well, all right, 42 people.
Managers.
Yeah, 42 in Israel and abroad. So, did you say 42?
Yeah, I said 42.
Oh, I'm sorry. Io sono spiacente, Paisan.
No problem. Now,
okay.
The funniest thing is they arrested, the top guy and 42 managers, and they still didn't stop it. It still continues.
Oh, nice. Because it says, I'm glad to hear that, because here it's saying that the Telegraph's website was taken over and that the site was seized by the Israel police.
Yeah, they took everything down in order to protect, the dealers and everything. There was always like an alert button, that they could press and just shut the whole thing down. But it just started from scratch because people have understood how to do it and how it's working, and the idea survived. And after a few days, less than a week, and they were already advertising for we're back, and maybe it isn't the same people, but it's back. From what I heard, it's not the same thing. It's not the same quality, because the quality was the organizers. They made sure there were no crooks, scammers. They protected the buyers. All they brought is protection to the business.
Right. So, what was the actual? I guess I could read it here, but what are the actual so-called crimes that he is sitting in a Ukraine prison and others are sitting in jail, whether in Israel or Ukraine or other places abroad. What's the actual crime that they're accusing Amos of committing?
Well, being involved in dealing drugs and also hard drugs, not just cannabis, and promoting the use of cannabis and violating the law, and even promoting the use by underage. So that's
Sure.
what they're saying.
Okay, so because you have in the United States the Sackler family, and not one of them has spent a moment in jail at this point. And if we take the government at its word that they're in court, but according to prosecutors, that they are responsible for tens of thousands of people dying because they misled patients and doctors regarding how addictive their medicine was, and so it led to they're saying that they are a great deal responsible for causing the opioid epidemic in the United States. None of them are in jail at this point. None of them. And they believe that they're responsible for killing or leading to the deaths of tens of thousands of people over years. Actual deception. And they have internal documents apparently that show that they knew what they were doing, that they were misleading. They were deliberately misleading doctors and patients. None of them are sitting in jail right now. And yet this guy, Amos, who is not, I don't think is he accused of actually killing anybody?
Well,
basically,
we have on the line Gali, Amos' wife.
Hi.
Oh, well, welcome to the show, Gali. We were just talking about the incredible double standard that you have the Sackler family in the United States responsible for a good portion of tens of thousands of deaths due to the opioid epidemic in the United States. None of them are sitting in jail right now because billionaires don't go to jail. Yet your husband has been sitting in a Ukraine prison since March.
Yes, so I've heard about that, and I'm currently in Poughkeepsie, and I was arrested as well. Before that, I would just like to add that Telegraph, basically the main goal was to forcing the government to legalize cannabis in Israel. And as Telegraph and as a Telegraph manager, basically the whole responsibility for buyers was to make sure that you don't buy from bad people and you don't buy bad cannabis or low quality, and they won't trick you or steal your money, or you have to find a dealer in a dark alley and get your cannabis from. And also Telegraph never took money. The only money they took, and this money was not used by the managers. This money was given back to the patients or the people that are in need. And basically, the main point, when Amos sold this joint back in 2013, they wanted his father was sick, and he had I'm not sure what cancer, but he had a really, really bad cancer, and he had a medical license for cannabis. And the Israeli police basically told his father, if you want your son to come out and go to a house arrest back in home, then your father must give back and give up his medical license. So basically they sentenced him to death. His father didn't want him to stay in prison, so he gave back the medical license and went back to medication. And then his father passed away a few months after that. That's when Amos decided basically that this thing would never happen again. And if somebody is in need of cannabis as medication, then he should have it. So this is basically the main goal behind Telegraph. And it became such a powerful platform. He had, I will tell you about Israel. Israel has about 9 million population. And well, on the research, they said about 2 million, but I believe there is more than that, 2 million cannabis users. And for me, as I see it, his arrest is completely political, because the prime minister said 3 days before the arrest, and I was also one of these 42 that was arrested. I was arrested here in New York in Poughkeepsie by FBI and DEA, and I had over 50 agents raiding my house.
Jeez.
And when they raided, the Israeli police told them that we have hundreds and thousands of dollars in cash, and we're hiding it in bags, and that we have kilos and whatever, any kind of drug possible. And when they raided my house, and I was in the shower when they raided, and they couldn't believe that there is nothing. I had a little jar of weed, and I had $3 on the table. And they were so upset, and they said, we cannot believe this is why the Israelis sent us over here. And after maybe like 20 minutes, 40 of them left, and I was left with 10 agents and some Israeli agent that came all the way from Israel. And the guy told me, I came to take you back to Israel. And I was like, for what? And after they took me downtown to the Poughkeepsie police station, after 7 hours of interrogation in Hebrew by the Israeli police, they let me go. And after that, the judge told them that they should not bother me anymore and do not contact me anymore, and to give me back all the things that they took.
Isn't being in Poughkeepsie punishment enough already?
I know, I know, and I will tell you why we live in Poughkeepsie, because in the beginning of Telegraph, and Telegraph started to making money only about 6 months ago, and the first whole year that we lived here in Poughkeepsie, our landlord let us live here for free because he was supporting Telegraph, and he was feeling bad for us that we don't have income, so he let us live in a free studio apartment for 1 whole year because we didn't have money enough to pay for rent.
Wow!
And we have a 5-year-old. Yeah, our landlord is, I can say he's the biggest fan of Telegraph, and he also wanted to invest in merchandise, having the Telegraph symbol. And basically, what Telegraph and how important Telegraph is in the Israeli society. Telegraph helped to support a lot, I can say thousands of medical patients. And to get a license for medical patients in Israel, you have to go through 1 whole year of taking fentanyl and taking all possible drugs that are available. And only if all these drugs are not working, then they might approve you for cannabis license. So a lot of people were dying on the way to get the license, and a lot of people were sick and needed the license before this year. So it was a lot of need for cannabis in Israel. And also, usually, to get a medical license, it costs about $2,000 if you want to speed your process. So basically, the government are making a lot of profit out of it. And also, what Amos did was to open and free the market, because the Israeli cannabis market was mostly running by crime organizations, that they were the only ones who were allowed to sell cannabis. And then what Telegraph did was basically to open to whoever wanted to be a dealer. He could just sign up with his ID, show his merchandise. If it's good, he would be approved, and then he could start selling. And the money that Telegraph was making was not from the deals. The dealer would make their own money. Nobody would track the deals. Nobody knows how much they were earning. The only thing is the dealers would pay for space for advertising, basically. So they would get 1 free channel, and 1 free channel wins 1 city in Israel. You can choose whichever city you would like to work. And after that, if you want to expand and be a bigger dealer, and so you would pay $420 for each city extra. And this $420 for each city extra, most of the money went for the programmers that wrote the codes and the bots and everything.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before.
Go ahead.
Were there any reports of bad dealers? Because
yes,
there was. Okay.
Yes.
And so were they credible? Were they dealt with? Was it corrected? What happened with that?
Basically, when you sign up to become a dealer, you bring your ID and you bring a proof of address to make sure who you are, and in knowledge that if you would do something wrong, you will be kicked out of the platform, and your details would be published in the public. So that was kind of like what scares the dealers, to make sure they won't do anything wrong. Because we had over over 300,000 followers for these channels, and we had over 5,000 dealers working in the platform. And if somebody did something bad, then first of all, he would be contacted. Let's say if somebody sell a bad merchandise, then we would contact them and tell them, listen, give the guy back his money or give him a better merchandise, or if not, you will be kicked out, and will be published. So nobody wanted to be published, because after that, then it's a shame that everybody sees you in the street and say, oh, this guy is a bad dealer and he stole from somebody. So,
but let me ask you this: how many of your customers died?
None.
Oh, so I'm going to go back to the Sackler family.
I saw that, and it's surprising. And also, well, Israel chose Ukraine because Ukraine, for my understanding, in the past 4 months that I'm dealing with the Ukrainians, it's the most corrupted place I've ever. I didn't even imagine in my life that the corruption is so bad over there. Until this day, Amos was supposed to go 3 times for court. And every court date, he was supposed to go and speak in front of the judge and give his arguments. At the first time, the prosecutor came to the court and he said, "Oh, I will be right back," and he didn't came back. And then the trial was pushed in another month. After that, when was supposed to be the second trial date, the translator didn't show up, so they pushed the trial for another month.
Well, you don't mean a trial; you mean an extradition hearing.
Well, it's not an extradition because he's a U.S. citizen and he did not commit any crime. And the Israeli were supposed to, and also the extradition request is for investigation. They don't have any proof against him. They don't have nothing against him. And because he's a U.S. citizen and he was not in Israel since 2013 and he lived in the U.S., well, he's completely a U.S. citizen and he lived here. And the extradition laws says that he could be extradited if he lived in Israel, but he didn't. So there's a lot of breaking the laws and a lot of bribing for the judges and the prosecutor. And also, even one of the judges said that one day before the court, some Israelis came with translator. They say the judge said it's the Mossad, but I'm not sure if it is the Mossad. He said that the Mossad came to meet him, and they told him, if you want political relations with Israel, then you should not set him free. And the judge told us that he's very sorry. He knows that he's innocent, but he's afraid to say no to the Israeli authorities. So he would keep him in prison, and he wouldn't release him for a house arrest over there. Jeez. And since then, we're just trying to fight. But every time that we're trying to fight, I'll give you an example. 3 days ago, the lawyer office somebody broke into somebody. It's the Israelis, but somebody broke into the lawyer's office and steal nothing but the suitcase with all Amos documents. That was the only thing that was stolen. And he was supposed to have another court date, the 4th one, which he was supposed to go for a house arrest. And the Israeli consul was speaking to the prosecutor and telling them, do not let him go. We want to make a big trial out of him, even though, and they're accusing him the Israelis, they're accusing him as a head of a crime organization. They're accusing him for selling and dealing drugs. And they accusing him of 7 different crazy charges, which are not even true and could not be possible because he was here in the States. So wow. There's a lot of corruption.
Oh, well, sure. Well, what I want to do is I want to have another show where I can have you on and have you on with Eyal at the beginning, and so we can spend a little more time in this. Maybe when I have an opportunity to do a Saturday show where I have more than an hour, we can do that. So can we? Because I'm very limited on time, and I have a couple of other calls that I need to get to as far as court. I think people are calling about court, so please don't take this the wrong ways. I do want to schedule another show with you. So can we, I can't do that this Saturday, but how about a week from Saturday?
Not a problem. I can do that.
Okay, great. And Eyal, can you make that?
Sure.
All right, great. I appreciate it. And I'll do what I can to get the word out here. And it's sickening. It because this goes right to the double standard that I have been what I've been talking about, and the video that I'd like to be able to get finished. in that you have the Sackler. This is a perfect example of this. You had 50 agents raid, and the business you're associated with is not responsible or even being blamed, falsely or otherwise, for killing people. And yet the Sackler family has been credibly accused of helping cause the opioid epidemic, and not a single one of them is spending a day in jail. They don't have their mansions being raided by 50 agents. It's absolutely disgusting for anyone to, in this day and age, to ever say that there is no ruling class and that there aren't two sets of books is just a fool. This is a prime example of that. So I appreciate the time, guys. I really do. And so what we'll do is we'll set it for a week, not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. And maybe we can get an hour to 2 hours where we can really flesh this out.
All right, sounds good to me. One thing before that, I would like to say that the 42 people that were arrested, already 29 were released because they had no charges against them and they had no proofs. The only people that are arrested is my husband, because he's in Ukraine and, you know, it's corrupted. It's very hard to fight them. And the other ones, they basically trying to frame them with whatever they could. So... Well, 29 were released already.
Well, that's actually good news. So I made a notation of that. So that's something we can pick up and we can discuss, because I think that's pretty significant in this sad story. So I appreciate the time, guys, and we'll talk again in about 10 days.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
I'm gonna get hooked up to the caller line. So give me a second. The magic of editing. Okay, appreciate everyone's patience. We'll get to some calls. I have a little bit of time left. We'll try to get to everybody if possible. We have area code 859. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Mark. My name is Steven, and I'm calling from Kentucky.
Steven from Kentucky. What can I do for you today?
So I got a traffic ticket, and I've been trying to, it's been a few years since I've had to do any of this. I was trying to do the role play, and I sent you the screenshot of how that went. I've lost the initial instructions. So I'm just trying to figure out what all the basic steps I need to do are.
Oh, well, well, it's usually done in the Discord. I wouldn't recommend, doing the actual role play in.
Yeah, that's how long it had been.
Okay. Yeah, you just contact. We'll get that Discord set back up. I'm extremely limited on time in this summer, because I am taking. For a while for 2 weeks practically, I was the sole caregiver for my elderly father-in-law. So that kind of put it's been a real time. Anyway, so yeah, I haven't been able to, but what I can say, we'll get you the Discord link, and we can get that set up. I'll do what I can to be able to participate. I may be able to do that tomorrow, because we used to do it on Thursday. Well, I would participate on Thursday. I think what I would say here is make sure you're sticking to the basics. You want to know that you're keeping the burden of proof on the prosecution or on the accuser where it belongs, and you're asking leading questions. Assume that every single thing that they're saying is a lie, and that and it is a lie or untrue until they have produced the facts to back up the claim. and it's we need to stay on point. And I think because of the time frame, we don't have the luxury, Steve, of getting into a lot of the setup questions. I would still use the setup questions in role play so that you understand the process. But we usually go right for the throat. And in a nutshell, it's you're asking them what their position actually is, what their claim is. And then you're asking them to, basically leading questions, and you're asking for the facts to find out why they think that that's true. What facts prove that this claim is true? And that really is it in a nutshell. Everything kind of flows from that. So it doesn't matter what the claim is.
My main thing is like with the like I saw you did a video back to the basics, and I watched a little bit of that because I didn't know who the prosecutor's name was. I didn't want to send it initially to the cop because then they probably would say that I'm tampering with the witness. Yeah. I went down to the court today and got the name of the prosecutor. So I guess I'll just send it back. You said to mail it into them, so I guess I'll mail it into that and just put attention, so and so on there, the name of the prosecutor, to make sure he gets it. Do I also want to mail anything to the cop?
No.
Now that I know.
No, and this is for you, everybody else, for all of us. Anytime that there is a prosecutor formally on there, there's been a notice of appearance, or you just know that there's a prosecutor assigned, there is zero contact with the police officer. So it all goes to the prosecutor.
Well, she kind of just guessed, though. She said, "Oh, well, your last name starts with this. You're coming in at this time. That means it should be this guy." And the word "should be" was the thing that worried me the most. Like, you don't sound like you really know who I need to send this to.
But there may not be a prosecutor formally assigned. It may be one of these things where someone in the office is just given a stack of folders that morning, and that's how that's how it's done. It depending, even especially if you're in a really busy area like LA. What you do is, as long as you know that it's either the city or the county attorney, you can just send it to the county attorney and have the case number on the outside of the envelope. And so you've done your due diligence. You've done whatever you need to do to make sure that office gets it. Whoever may be assigned, whether they want to say, and it may be a completely honest thing, where they, like I just mentioned, you've covered your bases. You've sent it to the office, and it's up to them to make sure it gets to the right guy or gal.
So it sounds to me like I should just mail this in there and just put like case number, because I have the case number, to prosecuting attorney. Just have that in the slot of who I'm sending this to, because I don't know who it is.
Yeah, you can.
They didn't seem too confident in their answer.
Right. So you're either sending it. There's only two places it's going when it's at the local level. It's either going to the city attorney or it's going to the county attorney. So you can just put county attorney, put the address from online, and mail that damn thing out with the case number on the attention, and put the case number on it. Okay.
And do you still recommend doing this all registered mail, so it counts as received the day of?
I don't. Well, if you don't have the time, yeah. But if you've got time, I don't usually recommend that you do that. I only recommend registered.
I mean, I'm not in there. I don't have to be in until the 15th of next month. So I've got a little bit of time, but mainly just that way. So I can say, no, I sent this registered mail. So the timer starts today, and I'll have a receipt to prove all that.
Well, they still have 15 days to respond. So it's not like, I mean, they may have received it, but they're still going to have the opportunity to respond. If you're going to go through some expense, which here I wouldn't do that. I do it with the IRS because they always lie that they've got it, that they haven't got it. But courts typically don't lie that they haven't got it. If you need some assurance, just pay $1 or so for a certificate of mailing. And now you've got your prima facie proof that they got it. And now it's up to them to prove that they didn't. So that's usually sufficient.
The only other thing I was thinking of was with the 15 days. What if I mail it like, let's see, tomorrow? That way, if the 15 days would be up by the time I'm scheduled to actually be there, and I could just walk in like, I have an unopposed motion that has passed the time limit. The state prosecutor is obviously not ready to proceed.
Well, if that's the date of the hearing, a date of a trial, then they're going to, it's something you can argue right then and there. And you're not asking for something that the prosecution shouldn't already have in the file. So my personal opinion is they don't need any time other than to read the motion to then be able to respond to it. They only need a couple of minutes. Everything is supposed to already be in the file. If it's not, then the judge should dismiss it. This isn't rocket surgery. You know, we're not asking for anything that's not supposed to already be there. And it's traffic. It's not, or it's a minor traffic thing or a minor thing. It's not like it's a really sophisticated thing where there's 200 pieces of evidence and there's 75,000 documents. So that's not the case. You know, so
I mean, do you think that would be a good idea though? Because knowing, like, let's say I'll look up and I'll make sure that it's actually 15 days. If I make it so like the 15-day was up like the day before my first appearance, I can then show up and be like, look, I submitted my demurrer on this date. Here's my proof of that. I've received no answer, and the time limit's already up. I object to any continuance. I object to any of that.
You can do that, but they're generally, they sometimes they bend over back. Well, a lot of times they bend over backwards for the prosecutor, and they give them extra time anyway. My experience with this, though, Steve, is that when they give the prosecutor, when they don't just deny the motion outright or the demurrer, they don't overrule it. When they give the prosecutor time to respond, most of the time the prosecutors withdraw. I've got plenty of proof of that on markstevens.net. I mean, there's plenty of nolo prosequis and orders and withdrawals from prosecutors. So if even, so I wouldn't despair if the judge turns around and says, well, I'm going to give them another 30 days to respond to this, because call me and let them know that that's what they said, because I'm not, it's not 9 times out of 10, but I would say, 6, 7 times out of 10, we get a withdrawal under under those conditions. So give them the extra.
But shouldn't I still object to that even?
Yeah. But it's
like,
not, you should. Yeah. And I would.
He's not prepared to proceed. Well, I filed all my stuff. He had X amount of days. These are your rules. I'm just trying to follow your rules, and you're changing them for the prosecutor. So
sure, that's what they do.
More evidence of an unfair rigged game.
Yes,
you're changing the rules to benefit this guy when I was following them.
Right.
I bet you wouldn't change the rules for me.
Well, of course not. But you can object and say, well, there's no preparation needed. Either it's in the file or it's not. They're just like we just went through. This is not a sophisticated case with hundreds of pieces of evidence and witnesses and this and that. There's only a few moving parts here. Either it's in the record right now, or it has to be dismissed. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way fairness and due process work. So I'm going to try to get another call though. So you keep me. I
was going to suggest that. Yeah,
you keep me in the loop and let me know what happens.
Yeah, I'll try and contact you on Discord or whatever was best for you.
Well,
just to
start on
Skype.
Skype.
Need to get some role play in.
Okay, we'll see what we can do to work that out. All right.
All right.
I appreciate the call.
Well, thank you for your time, Mark. Hi to everyone in the chat.
We're gonna try. I'm running low on time, so I apologize for this. We'll do my best. We got Paul over here in Florida. Paul.
Yes, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing. Hey, I've gotten 3 days worth of sleep, so I don't feel like I'm gonna die anymore. So I'm doing all right.
I've been on the line a couple times when we had the phone trouble. Unfortunately, my hearing is tomorrow, so I'll try to make this fast.
Damn it.
This is the driving with suspended license case. It's over a year now. I got the first judge to recuse herself. This is I filed a motion of limine, is it?
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to know if there's any gotchas I got to look out for in terms of all they've given me in terms of evidence is my driving record, the tickets, and a couple of the statutes. I just wanted to know if there's anything I'm just going to stick with what's on the motion. And is there anything else I need to be aware of or any gotchas, I guess?
Prosecutorial misconduct, because they're arguing without evidence. So you can object and you can ask them, how does this prove your allegation that the laws apply? How does this prove that? Where is the and you have to have a witness does the witness have personal firsthand knowledge of the matters they're testifying to? So you should be objecting to that. Say, I object. Where is the prosecution's proof of firsthand knowledge that the laws apply and I violated them? Where is the proof? So those are discoverable. That's discoverable material. It's exculpatory. It goes to impeach the competency and credibility of the witness, and he has to disclose that to you. If he's going to go on record and say he does have such proof, great, disclose it.
Where's it at?
Where is it? Now, if they turn around and they say that that personal knowledge is something that's going to come out in testimony. Objection. What is it? You can't surprise me today. You have to tell me what the gist of his testimony is. What is he going to? What's the proof? All that proof that goes to personal knowledge that the prosecution is planning to use against you, they have to disclose it to you, and they have not done it. So object often, and if you can't articulate in the heat of the moment, say it's unfair, violates due process.
Violates. Yeah, that's what my docket sounding. She was trying to tell me I only had these choices, and I said, so you're not going to let me ask questions? I'm not entitled to due process. And she stopped and says, okay, what do you want to know?
Nice. Good job. Hey, Paul, so just to verify now, you asked questions of a judge and she answered some of them, right?
She did.
Oh, whoa. Somebody likes to keep saying to us here at the No State Project that judges don't answer questions. Don't ask questions. It's not a part of a valid legal defense. And so it's not true. So you were one of many, like myself, from personal knowledge. You asked the judge some questions and they asked them and they answered them. A lot of times they do, because you can only defend against that which is being disclosed. So due process at a bare minimum, everybody. Goldberg versus Kelly in cases too numerous to have to cite. Due process requires at a bare minimum notice and opportunity to defend and have a meaningful hearing. So that's why that's important. Well, I wish you luck. I'm going to try to take one more caller. If you have any other questions, maybe you can get on the Skype and we can get you in Discord. Maybe there can be some last minute role playing before you go in tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll let the next person get on. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, good luck. Let me know what happens tomorrow. Okay.
Certainly will. Certainly will.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. We're going to go to one last call. I think I got California or Los Angeles over here, but we'll see. We got area code 213. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Oh, Gomez Agama. Area code 213. I got nothing. Okay, so maybe what I'm going to do is, since I'm pretty much out of time, I'm going to drop off for here. No more calls today. I think we did pretty good. There was actually somebody that I wrote it down. It was a Russian name. Thinking that maybe that I have I should have a last name that ends in Berg, B-E-R-G, because I have such a large nose. Really? After all these times, someone's going to still take for the nose? No, this is a classic Roman nose. So very, very prominent. Yes, I understand. But if that's the best you got, my gosh, the nose. It's been a while since I had a stupid comment about the nose. But yes, I am very, very at ease with the size of my schnoz. And again, it's not. I was actually accused. Someone said I was a hook-nosed Jew. I mean, if you're going to insult somebody, at least get it right. This is not a Jewish nose. So anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning in to the big show today. We will cover more time with Amos Silver and his wife and the people that were arrested for cannabis. Remember to keep in mind, whenever we're looking at cannabis prosecutions, when we're looking at people being shot, raided at gunpoint, you cannot. And we should never allow the discussion to continue without discussing the Sackler family or companies like Bayer, who knowingly put out an HIV medication knowing it was tainted. They just took it out of the United States. Oh, because when you go out of the United States, the chances of there being brown people are probably better. So it's okay to give it to. Okay, so when you have these pharmaceutical companies like this Sackler family, are they being raided? Are they being pulled out of the shower at gunpoint? Are they in jail? Are they trying to be, all these things that happen to the little people? Is it happening to the Sacklers? So regardless of what's, when we talk about cannabis, we're talking about marijuana, which the tide is turning as far as decriminalization. These prosecutions are still continuing, outside of the United States. This is absolutely disgraceful. To be responsible. Primarily responsible for misleading doctors and patients about just how addictive it is, these drugs, and to not face not a single moment in jail. While if you have a joint, what do you say? He sold one joint to an undercover, Amos Silver, and one joint, and spent 7 months in Israeli gulag. Yeah. That's why we talk about anarchy. Not so much today, a little bit. The ruling class. The rules do not apply to the ruling class, which obviously includes the wealthy. I think there was a day in jail for the first fraud prosecution about the fraud within the college admissions. A day in jail. Just like Ken Anderson. Don't ever forget the name Ken Anderson, this low life. Ken Anderson knowingly put an innocent man in jail. He spent 25 years of his life, an innocent man. And this guy went to jail, not prison, not a federal pound me in the ass prison. He went to jail for less than 10 days. So don't let anybody kid you that there's no such thing as a ruling class, because there very well is. We always have to mention Jeffrey Epstein, the Lolita Express sweetheart deal from Alexander Acosta, who is still in office. Sweetheart deal. Not only did Epstein get a sweetheart deal, but unnamed co-conspirators, immunity. There's your United States justice system. Woman gets raided by 50 armed men for marijuana. Epstein and his friends, immunity. Sackler family. Okay. My name is Marc Stevens. Appreciate everyone tuning into the big show here today. I will not be live Saturday. I will be back Wednesday. And then after that, I'll be back on a regular Saturday rotation. So we'll get Eyal and Gali back on talking about Amos Silver and Telegraph. If you want to help support the big show, it's to markstevens.cells.com and markstevens.net. And so, hey, till next time, salud.